Good morning, my people. Got a good show for you. Merry Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. It is a wonderful day. I wish I had all good news for you today. I do not. Things breaking across the world that are significant here at home. Just the theme for today's show is sleeping through history class is expensive. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Grab a cup of coffee, grab your pen and paper. This is going to be a good one, folks. Love you. Baby, don't apologize. If you want to share something, share something. If I interrupted the conversation when I started the show, please continue. Continue. We have the best live chat on all of the internet, smartest people on all of the internet. Yeah, by all means, continue your conversation while I do the show. We've had some breaking news, but before we get to it, I just want to drag back to the last show. We talked about Iran. We talked about the Houthis and what they were up to in the Red Sea, and just basically the functions on how that worked. Well, we're going to recap a little bit of that today because Iran did something that was galactically stupid Saturday. Merry Christmas, Marcia. Glad to see you here. Thank you for the support. This, my friends, is the chemical tanker Chem Pluto. And it was sailing from the Saudi Arabian port of Al Jabail to Mangalore, India. And this, my friends, is the MV Chem Pluto today. It was struck by an Iranian drone off the coast of India. I'll give you an idea of where we're talking about. Let's go to the map. You remember last week we were talking about using proxies and how Iran would not really get directly involved in the Red Sea situation. They didn't. They did, but they didn't. This was an attack on a ship that came out of the Persian Gulf here from the Saudi Arabian oil port of Al Jabail. You see here, about midway through the Persian Gulf. This is a highly tense area of the world, to say the least. You have Kuwait up here in the northern Persian Gulf, the Saudis on the western bank, the Iranians on the eastern bank. It is a tense neighborhood, to say the least. The Chem Pluto had filled with Saudi oil and steamed out of the Persian Gulf and was about 200 nautical miles west Let me pull up the city for you. It was actually just north of Porbandar here in this region right here. What they do is India is a massive country. It's with a massive population. There's well over 1 billion people. They have roughly 4 times the population that we do here in the United States. It's just a massive country. They buy a lot of Saudi oil, folks. They do. They buy a lot of Saudi oil. And those oil tankers sail down the coast of India to varying ports. Here's Mumbai. For you old folks, used to be known as Bombay. Mumbai has an interesting history of changing its name. It's had, I believe, well over a dozen different names. Used to be historically known as Bombay. And back in the 90s, they settled on Mumbai. This is Mumbai. This particular tanker was headed down here to Mangaluru in southern India when it was struck. This is a really big deal, folks. This is huge. This is an expansion of this entire conflict in a way that if you're not familiar with the history of the region, it's kind of difficult to understand the goal. That's why I always say sleeping through history class is expensive. So let's get into it. Let's talk about, why did Iran attack a Japanese-owned, Netherlands-operated tanker filled with Saudi oil going to India? I mean, that's some alphabet soup right there, folks. I mean, why did they do that? What was the goal? Well, to understand the goal, you've got to understand the region. To understand the region, you've got to understand the history. And if you understand the history, you've got to know the players. This dapper gentleman right here is a guy by the name of Mohammed Jinnah. He is the father of Pakistan. And these two gentlemen, really sharp-looking guy, isn't he? Really sharp-looking guy. These two gentlemen one you'll recognize is Mohandas K. Gandhi, and the other is Jawaharlal Nehru. If Gandhi was the mouth of Indian independence, Nehru was its legs. He was the first prime minister of India. And let's go back to the map for a second. Jump in the Wayback Machine. In 1947, Britain got out of the colonies business, and they left a tremendous vacuum after decades. India was a British colony for almost 100 years, folks. It was the late 1850s, the East India Trading Company, all of that dirty politics and whatnot led to the colonies, the governorships in India that were just, it's a rich, rough history, but it's really worth looking into. It's really fascinating, really interesting. If you want a Cliff's Notes version of it, just go find the old movie Gandhi. It's 90-ish% accurate. It's really a fascinating area of the world. But Britain, which controlled this region of the world, withdrew in 1947. When they did, it created a massive power vacuum that immediately led to war. The Muslims and the Hindus in India, Nehru being Hindu, which was the majority population, and Jinnah, of course, being Muslim, when it went to war with each other over territory. Who was going to control it? Who was going to run it? The minute the British enemy, for the lack of a better word, was off the table, they started attacking one another, which is a conflict that is not settled yet today. They're still arguing over territory in Kashmir. There was a really beautiful ceremony at the Atari Wagah Gate. I recommend that you Google it and watch it. It's really fascinating. To this day, they have a very flamboyant ceremony. It's the beating of the retreat ceremony, where the Indian and the Pakistani military put on this no other word to call it but a dance, where they show their toughness and their mirror one another. It's really fascinating. It is. Go watch it. Just do a search for Atari Wagah, Attari, and Wagah is Wagah. It's really something to watch. It's one of the things that you just really should check out. But of course, India wasn't the only area that Britain withdrew from at the end of World War II. That also gave us the Israel and the Arab conflict. The second Britain left Israel, the Arabs attacked Israel. Literally the day Israel formed as a nation, the Arabs attacked. So this power vacuum in this part of the world has conflicts going all the way back to the 1940s, folks. It does. But recently, everything's been really smooth. We just haven't had, over the last decade or so, that much conflict in the region. It's almost like the world is moving on from this. And Iran is desperately trying to reignite these conflicts for Russia. And again, I know it sounds like Russia. No, it's really for Russia. Iran is all but a proxy state for Russia. It really is. This is Putin with the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, and the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, earlier this year. This is meant to be 100% an escalation in war throughout the world to keep the West busy, basically. And it's become obvious that Iran is going to be extremely careless in how they do this. They are literally throwing matches in piles of hay, just trying to start another conflict. And it's incredibly dangerous, folks. If you go back and you look at World War I, it escalated not because the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. That was just one thing. It was a domino effect of treaties that spread to varying areas around the world. I mean, World War I is when Britain entered into the Middle East over Ottoman support for the Austro-Hungarians. World War II didn't happen in a vacuum. It wasn't just in Central Europe. It was conflicts all over Europe and Northern Africa that caused this synergistic effect that created this massive conflict. And right now you have Ali Khamenei, who seems intent on recreating those conditions. And he's doing it at the behest of Russia. And right now you have Republicans that are making the exact same mistake that the Bush ancestors did in World War II, and they're backing the wrong side. They're backing the wrong side. The Republicans are absolutely backing Putin in this situation. And it's growing. It's growing. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news on Christmas Eve, but it's expanding. We had intelligence chatter that, again, we'll go back to the map real quick. I promise we'll quit banging back and forth on that. Again, just a recap here. This tanker was about right here, had just sailed out of the Persian Gulf, and was off the coast of its home port country when it was struck by a drone from Iran here. Now, this is Iran expanding out of the Red Sea and into the Arabian Sea. This threatens, again, we talked about the Silk Road in a previous show, all of the shipping between Europe and Southeastern Asia. That this is what this is meant to be. It's also an attempt, folks, the attack from Hamas on October 7th wasn't meant to be an isolated event between Israel and Hamas. They believed that this, with Russian agitation through Syria and Lebanon, they believed they were going to expand that conflict. Through the brilliance of Joe Biden and his diplomacy, and to hand it to Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, Turkey. Turkey deserves credit in this. They were all able to squash that. But Iran hasn't given up. They want that region-wide conflict. And that's why they're expanding these attacks. This is, again, a Japanese-owned tanker operated out of the Netherlands, carrying Saudi oil to India. This was intended to pick at historical scabs. And they're not stopping there. If we look at Northern Africa, we're now receiving chatter. Algeria is a close ally to Hamas and Iran. Morocco, they are bitter enemies with Iran. In fact, they broke off diplomatic relations back in 2009 and have never really fully restored their relations. This part of the world, and this is why I say sleeping through history class, it's expensive. It is expensive. But this right here is the Strait of Gibraltar. This is the access point to the Mediterranean, this narrow strait here. Fortunately, Morocco is a stable government. They are pro-business. They are a Muslim state. They are, but that doesn't mean that they're flying into the whims of anything that pisses off your average Muslim. You know, they don't have this rabid, insane hate of Israel. So anytime there's a conflict involving Israel, Morocco doesn't go crazy. They're a very stable country in that respect. But Algeria, on the other hand, is much like Libya was. This is a terrorist factory. This is a terrorist factory. In fact, the leaders of Hamas, when they were ejected from Qatar, remember we talked about that a few shows back, they have fled Qatar because the government of Qatar said, you started a war while you were living on our soil that breaks the rules, get out, we will no longer issue you our protection. So all of the billionaire leaders of Hamas have fled to Algiers, here in Algeria. We're getting chatter that they intend to start attacking shipping from Algeria coming through the Strait of Gibraltar. And that, folks, would be an escalation that would lead to world war. That right there would lead to a worldwide, I mean, you're talking China, you're talking Japan, you're talking would all consolidate against Russia. The gamble with Russia is they're thinking that this is going to force the rest of the world to not want to participate in this war, and that they will put pressure on Ukraine to give them territory to just end this conflict in the face of it being expanded. That is a miscalculation. The world has no stomach for a Russian terrorist state anymore, and they understand the cost of appeasement. And frankly, they're really angry at Iran picking at these conflicts. You know, the India-Pakistan conflict has settled to the point where they're holding ceremonies with each. I mean, they hold ceremonies with each other. The Kashmir conflict used to be a hot conflict, folks. I mean, shooting at each other. The citizens used to fight each other. That's all calmed down. Those lines have become rigid. I mean, there's still verbiage back and forth, but it had calmed down to the point that, you know, folks, we killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. I mean, that was a really freaking big deal that didn't escalate off the rails. That was a monstrous gamble by President Obama. And Pakistan's response to that was testimony to what I'm talking about. The entire world had settled down. They didn't want this agitation in these regions. And here comes Russia squeezing out a giant turd in the pool because they're collapsing. So we've got the Pakistan-India conflict that they're picking now. You know, Modi is going to have to save face. They've already sent a warship out and a couple planes to protect this tanker as it gets hauled into port. This wasn't just to pick at the Pakistan-India conflict. This was also to try to inflame the Houthi-Saudi conflict also. Remember, this was Saudi oil in this tanker. And the ruler of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has been playing a tightrope diplomatic game. He's been trying to ingratiate himself with Russia. He's been trying to distance himself from us without actually distancing himself from us. We're their reliable supplier of arms and security. It's American ships in the Persian Gulf that prevented Iran from attacking that ship closer to home. It's American ships in the Red Sea. And the Saudis want that. Their oil has to travel through that region. And yes, MBS is a murderer. Great comment there. That's why I love you people. You know what the hell's going on in the world. But you need to be aware of the conflict. The Saudis and the Houthis bitterly oppose each other. The Iranians and the Saudis have been vying for clout in the region. Both of them want to be the most important, most powerful player in the region. The Iranians have blatant open backing from Russia. So Mohammed bin Salman has been waging a diplomatic war to ingratiate himself with Russia, to try to weaken that support for Iran and encourage the Russian support of Saudi Arabia. That's all broken down. This attack was a spit in the face to Mohammed bin Salman on the world stage, folks. I appreciate the support, Lucky Star. I really do. Merry Christmas to you. That was what this attack was about, to inflame these conflicts. And mark my words, folks, there really is chatter coming out of Algiers about attacks on shipping going through Gibraltar. This type of thing, as you know, going back to the show we had about the Silk Road, Iran blatantly interrupting world trade like this isn't going to get the response that they want. Now, this isn't just bravado. This isn't me banging my chest saying, oh, we're tough guys. Iran better be scared. No, this is a brutal miscalculation by Iran. Iran has felt way too comfortable. They have been engaging in horrific behavior, murdering their own women for showing their hair. They've been open state sponsors of terror. They have been engaging in psyops all throughout the world. I would invite you, go to social media today. They are lauding all over XChan all night long when it was bankers hours in from Indonesia to the Middle East. They have been screaming about what a wonderful success this is. And again, you know, I explained to you how ship ownership works, that there are these groups of people that get together to buy these ships because they're so amazingly expensive. Somewhere in the group, it is a predominantly Japanese-owned vessel, but somewhere in the investment group, there's a Jewish guy. So Iran is saying this is an attack on Israel, which is supposed to make it okay. Yeah, Mary P., that would be an escalation. I mean, it is a brutal miscalculation. It's just insanely brutal miscalculation. Europe would immediately go to a war footing. Iran thinks it's safe. Iran thinks that it's the outrage that it's fomented would protect it, that the people would just rise up. It would be one of those situations like we had in Vietnam where we wildly miscalculated where the people were in that country and politically. They think that they have created the exact same situation. This is not Vietnam, people. The world will not care how the people in that region feel. When this expands farther, and it looks as though it's going to, you're going to see the United States, Europe, a good chunk of the stable states in Africa, everyone is going to react to this. You're talking about getting into everybody's wallet. Merry Christmas. Thank you for all you do, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, Fortunate Man News. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too, Diana Turner. I thank you. Thank you for the support. Folks, what does this mean to you? Price at the pumps are going up. That's what it means. That's what it means. This is also political. Russia is stuck with a ton of oil they can't sell. Prices are in the doldrums. Their government is literally collapsing over the price of oil. We here in the United States are pumping oil as fast as we possibly can. The Saudis have been storing oil on tankers. They haven't done that since COVID. You could damn near walk across the Persian Gulf without getting your feet wet, jumping from Saudi tanker to Saudi tanker to Saudi tanker that are sitting there full of oil. not moving because they're desperately trying to get the price of oil back up. And this, my friends, is going to do it. Thank you for the support, Sherry. I really appreciate you. You're always here for me. I appreciate that. Exactly. Deb Denny, exactly. As prices start to creep up again, this will be Biden's fault. Now, Biden has done an amazing job in this region, just an amazing job in this region. He really has. Thank you. I appreciate you, Coxnut. I appreciate you. He really has. This Hamas, before the October 7th attack by Hamas, there had been a ceasefire brokered back in 2018 by Egypt. It was literally a moment. People were like, how could Israel fall for this? This had to be planned and yada, yada, yada. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Israel had become complacent. There had been a ceasefire in place since 2018. There had been small skirmishes back and forth. That's it. Just small. Nothing major. And it looked like peace was moving forward. Hamas took that time to train, the paragliders, to train and prepare for this. Russia took the time to prepare its troll operations, its social media operations to pull this pro-Palestine thing. I mean, literally the day the attack happened, you had social media about the genocide Israel was committing in Gaza over this, and Israel hadn't even had time to react. And there was already a genocide going on. I mean, this was a straight up psyop. This was meant to explode beyond the region. That's why the Houthis got involved. It didn't. It didn't because Joe Biden sent the Eisenhower, he sent the Gerald R. Ford in and said, nobody be stupid. Nobody be stupid. And while he was showing strength with one arm, the other arm, he wrapped it around the leaders in the region, in Egypt, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Turkey, and said, guys, I promise you, I promise you, I will reign in Israel. And they did. Israel didn't want that ceasefire any more than you would. Israel didn't want that ceasefire. If what happened in Israel on October 7th happened anywhere in the United States, no American would want a ceasefire. They would want literally every scalp. And that's the way that the Israelis felt about it. But Joe Biden, being Joe Biden, having decades upon decades upon decades of experience on the world stage, was able to tamp this down and keep this from blowing up into a region-wide conflict. Then the Iranians sent in the Houthis to attack shipping in the Red Sea. And the world didn't react the way they thought they would. They thought the world would force Israel into going back to the status quo. What happened on October 6th? That's what they want to force Israel back to. With Hamas attacking Israel and Israel doing nothing about it. E.T., absolutely right. The Republicans will blame Joe for this. And that's part of the goal. That is part of the goal. The Iranians keep escalating, trying to it's not Israel, folks. It's not. That's the cudgel they use with the average person that doesn't know what's going on in the region. Oh, it's Israel, it's Israel. That's what they use on social media here. It's Israel, it's Israel. It's not Israel. It's the conflict, because Russia desperately needs the conflict to expand. They're trying to raise the stakes on the world stage. I cannot stress to you enough, Russia is collapsing. People are speaking openly in Russia about the demise of Putin, that it is his fault for creating the situation with Ukraine, that he is a fool. Peter Brett says, countdown to Trump is saying it would never have happened with me in charge. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. What I suspect will happen here, Iran is trying to inflame conflict again between Pakistan and India. They're trying to inflame conflict between the Houthis and the Saudis. They're trying to piss off the Saudis and make MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, lose face in the region, to make him look weak, to force him to react for conflict. See, again, it's not just Israel, folks. It's not Israel. They're trying to get the Saudis to react. Anything to cause war to break out. Anything to threaten trade. And when this doesn't work, and it will not work, because I assure you, Anthony Blinken is on the phone with Modi in Israel. I mean, pardon me, I'm Israel, in India, making sure that their reaction isn't over the top and Putin doesn't get what he wants. He's keeping the world focused on those sanctions. And what you're going to see, our response to this is we're going to see a new round of sanctions on Iran. To give you an idea, just these are the sanctions we used to have on Iran. These are the sanctions we used to have on Iran. Compared to this, the Empire State Building are the sanctions we have on Russia right now. We are literally killing Russia financially. This is a hot financial war. It is. That's why Russia is responding the way they are. We're about to do the same thing to Iran. And it's going to be rough, folks. The reason I want to talk about this, it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard to watch. It's going to cause a lot of hardship in Iran. I mean, people are already starving in Yemen. The Houthis don't take care of their people. They don't. And when we cripple Iran with the sanctions that are about to come, it's going to get even worse in Yemen. And the Saudis aren't going to do anything about it. That is absolutely true. One of the largest in the country. Saudi Aramco owns down by Port Arthur, one of the largest oil refineries in the country. Keep your eyes on the prize, folks. Keep your eyes on the prize. I know this is going to be hard to watch. And I know that you're going to get a lot of people. I mean, look what happened with the TikToks. You know, I got so much hate because I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon because I saw this, folks. I did. I'm not blowing my own horn here saying I'm special, this, that, and the other. No, I know a psyop when I see it. I know a psyop when I see it. So I started looking for the big picture. And there was nothing for the Palestinians to gain over October 7th. So I knew there had to be a different motivation. And I knew this had to be about Ukraine. And it turns out I was right. It was Russia using its relations in Syria and Lebanon and its relations with Iran to foment conflict in the region. Now they're expanding that. They're trying to draw India into this. And I have to tell you, folks, things have been cooling. Pakistan has been much more stable. But that can go south really fast. I mean, public sentiment is hell. It really is. Sheldon Hughes, thank you for the support, man. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. So, yeah, I want to get off of that. We've been on this for a while. I think you understand what is going on here. I'm trying to pique your interest to make sure that you keep track of other events. Dennis and Janae say, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, for all you do. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the support. I want to go to the map one more time to give you an idea of just what an amazing job Joe Biden is doing. This is Libya. This is Benghazi. And we're all familiar with what happened with the consulate in Benghazi. Christopher Stevens went there voluntarily. He was on a mission. See, one of the most interesting facts is that when we were occupying Iraq, this region right here, sent more foreign fighters to fight with the terrorists than any other region on earth. Yeah. It wasn't Palestinians, it wasn't Jordanians, it wasn't Iranians, it wasn't Egyptians. They were Libyans from around the region of Benghazi. So Christopher Stevens went there. And what we found out later is the Russians found out. And the Russians were behind the attack on Benghazi. That's why we feel very justified into escalating our responses. That's why we feel very justified in the brutality of the sanctions that we put on Russia, because Russia has been fighting a hot proxy war with us for decades. We are just now starting to swing back. And the Republicans here, they're okay with Russia doing this. They're traitors, folks. They are traitors. For a few bucks, for a few shekels, the Republicans are more than happy to sit on television and repeat Putin's talking points. I've played you the videos here of them absolutely repeating Putin's talking points. Exactly, Peter and Brett. Exactly. And that's where I was going with that, with Libya. We have to stop criticizing. War is horrible. War is horrible. ET says Ukraine needs tons of medical help for Christmas. Absolutely, they do. Ukraine needs our support immediately. We should be not just calling, we should be at the Capitol. We should, screaming about this. Because Russia absolutely wants to expand this war into Europe. They do. They are monetizing chaos. They are 100% monetizing chaos. 250 com. Do you mind if I use that? Do you mind if I lift that from you? That is amazing. The Judas Caucus. Absolutely. Absolutely wonderful. Hat tip. I'm going to use that if you don't mind. But yeah, the Judas Caucus within our own government. They're trying to undercut support for Israel. They're trying to undercut support for Iran while giving lip service to both. You've seen me play, Preacher Johnson's own words about how, I support Israel. I support Ukraine. And then they turn around, go behind closed doors, and they absolutely 100% stop support for Israel, stop support for Ukraine. We have to stop. We did this when they attacked Libya. Libya was becoming a Russian proxy state. Literally, more foreign fighters came out of the Benghazi region in Libya to attack our soldiers in Iraq, to try to keep Iraq destabilized, than from any place on earth. That's what Russia does. And folks, sometimes you got to get dirty. You do. Sometimes you just got to get dirty. This may end up into a shooting war with Iran. But what we can't do is fall victim as gas prices go back up, and they will. They will. I guarantee you the picture of one burning oil tanker will absolutely bring the price of gas up 25, 35, 45 cents a gallon. We'll be looking, it'll be closer to $3 here than $2 here in Texas. And the Republicans will run with it. Oh, that's old Joe Biden. Joe Biden did that. No, your buddy Putin did that. And Joe Biden's working his ass off to keep the world from burning, from falling into another world war. And that's why I tell you, folks, I love history. I love history. I know it can make your eyes glaze over listening to some of this stuff, but man, I tell you what, it's just when you really follow history, you look at it and say, aha, I've seen that before. I saw what happened. I saw the proxy wars in Northern Africa. I saw Italy foment their wars in Northern Africa, fall flat on their ass and have to be saved by the Germans in World War II. I saw all that play out. That's what put Rommel in Northern Africa. The Battle of El Alamein. They're trying to repeat that, folks. Algiers, watch Algiers. You're going to hear about the country of Algiers. I promise you, in 2 weeks. Robert Klobuchar, thank you so much for the support. Klobuchar, give me. I hate to mispronounce people's names. Give me a phonetic spelling of it so I can put respect on your name. So yeah, folks, that's what I really thought. Well, maybe I should do this Wednesday. It's Christmas Eve. You don't want to talk about this, but folks, I need you to be ahead of the game. I need you to be ahead of the game, not reacting. Oh, I just heard that Algeria is attacking shipping in the Mediterranean after you've had 2 weeks of frickin' psyops on social media, and you've got the TikToks out there talking about what a good thing it is. Folks, check me. Fact check me. Go do a search on social media right now after we call this show here in a few minutes. Go to XChan. Take a look at what's trending on the attack on this tanker and the verbiage. And you'll see 100%, as I have called it, it is unfolding. I'm not being arrogant there. I'm just telling, I read it, I saw it, hey, go take a look at it. I recognize it for what it is. Folks, hear me. Russia's on the edge. They don't have another year. They will not make it to Christmas next year. If we just stand strong. If we just stand strong in Ukraine, they will not make it another year. Their agitators are trying to foment the truckers in Poland, the truckers unions in Poland. The Russians are trying to agitate there, and the Polish truckers blockaded land crossings into Ukraine because of misinformation pumped out of Russia into Poland about Ukrainian truck drivers were stealing all the Polish jobs, which just wasn't true. but that war never ends. Neverman is here. Duty to be part of the informed electorate. You help me with that text. I appreciate that. That's what I'm trying to do, folks. That's what I'm trying to do. When I first got into this, the very beginnings of this, I was screaming out at the world on TikTok. I was seeing misinformation left and right. And I have to tell you, folks, I spent last night watching reels. I got zero sleep last night. None. I'm on a 48-hour run here. Thanks. You and Tennessee Brando need to do a once a week redneck roundup. Yeah, I really like Brando. He's a great guy. He really is. Just a really decent guy. But back to what I was saying. I was screaming at the world because I would see misinformation. I would see things that were summarized that I knew that doesn't jive with history. That's not right. Oh, I see the motivation behind that. Now, folks, I'm in a position where I'm able to do this 24/7. And all night last night, I get my information by listening to my enemy. I do. I listen to my enemy. And last night, all night, Reels was atrocious. Just atrocious. You saw a huge explosion. You remember that idiotic, we're not a democracy, we're a republic thing? You know that idiotic thing that right-wingers always say? Last night on Reels, on Instagram Reels, there were just video after video after video of that idiotic statement. Just people playing clips of some right-wing politician that just because you're eloquent doesn't mean you're right. Just because somebody is eloquent doesn't mean that they're right. They're correct. But yeah, all night last night, it was just an explosion in trollery. It was the old nonsensical stuff. There was another video I want to tell you about. Hey, thanks for the support, Jackie. I really appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you too. There was a nonsensical video, and it's a voiceover, and it shows some guys working on a crane talking about the government. I don't see the government. The government's never here until Thursday. Thursday, when my check comes, then the government shows up to take my money. Where's the government the rest of the week? And I'm sitting there watching this video with blood coming out of my eyes because you're on a crane. You're standing on a crane whose safety regulations are governed by OSHA, wearing a hard hat and a safety harness, none of which you would have if it wasn't for the government, because your company, and I can prove it because I've read a history book, your company does not voluntarily engage in worker safety. No, it is the government that forces these companies to meet minimum safety requirements. And every one of you guys in that video that are, I don't see the government, where's the government, are wearing your protective vests. You're wearing your safety harnesses because you are above 100 feet off the ground. You're wearing your hard hats. And you're building a construction project that isn't going to be flooded out because the government came in and absolutely took care of all the drainage in the region because no individual company could. If the government hadn't done that, you wouldn't be earning that paycheck on that building because that building wouldn't exist. because no one could afford the projects because they would have to engage in all of the infrastructure. And by the way, when your crane made it to the job site, it came on a road. And when you opened up your cooler that you brought with you to the top of the crane and started to eat your sandwich that you brought with you, because, crane operators really don't climb down off the cranes for lunch. They don't. They eat and poop and pee and everything up in the crane. They do. They don't climb down. But when you ate your sandwich, it had meat in it that you didn't even consider might kill you. Why? Because 100 years ago, the government said, we're not going to do that shit anymore. And went into the meat packing plants and the meat processing facilities, and they sent in inspectors. And if you think the government being there, because you can't see it, Mr. Redneck Crane Operator, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And let me tell you about the government. Not just 100 years ago with the meat. Last year, Tyson, Pilgrim's Pride, which is now owned by a Brazilian company, tried to sue the government so that they could process pustulated chickens. Not even kidding. Last year, diseased pustulated chickens are not allowed into our processing facilities. The chicken processors said, oh, what we'll do is we'll take these pustulated, pus-running chickens, we'll put them on a table, and we'll whack off the parts that don't have pustules in them, and we'll just sell that. And the government that you can't see, Mr. Right-wing asshole, said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to bring the diseased meat into the facility and let you chop it up there so you can just cleave. Oh, there's a good leg on this one. Let's cut that off and take. Oh, this one's it's oozing. Get rid of it. Last year, baby. Last freaking year. That government you couldn't see didn't make the corporate news in that fight. Because the same damn chicken companies that buy advertisement during your news programs didn't want you to see that. Fact check me. Break out your Google machine. Do a search. And read the articles because they're there. Mr. fucking Crane guy that don't see the government till his taxes show up. Guess what, Mr. Crane guy? When you slip on your ladder when you're coming down to get in your elevator that takes you to the ground and you break your back and you're laid up and you can't sit hunched over in your crane like this, operating your crane, watching, out the floor windows. It's the government that's going to pay you your disability. That's where that money's going to. It's an insurance policy. So yeah, excuse me for illustrating to you where the government is on the other days of the week besides Thursday. I hate Ronald Reagan. I intentionally do not know where Ronald Reagan is buried because I would shit on his grave. I would defecate on that man's grave if I knew where he was buried. So I intentionally do not find out where he is buried. This whole government is bad thing is bullshit. It's bullshit. Government is good when you have people in the government that want to do the damn job. And yeah, it's run by people, so it's going to screw up. It's going to screw up. Let me tell you, I'll be intellectually honest. I'll tell you exactly one of the most brutal screw ups we ever did. Ethanol. One of the biggest screw ups we ever did. And we can't undo it. So yeah, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. Before ethanol, we used to have grain surpluses. We had grain surpluses, and that went to feed the world. The world's hungry. It was sold dirt cheap. The government would buy it and turn around and sell it and distribute it throughout the world. That went away when they started making ethanol and subsidizing ethanol. All that grain goes into fuel now. And the fuel's terrible for your vehicle. They've had to redesign cars. They've had to redesign small engines. For years, small engines were just crap. I mean, everybody's like, they can't make a lawnmower anymore. This shit only lasted 5 years. That was the ethanol. It was the ethanol. Ryan Peace, Merry Christmas, Texas, Paul. And Mrs., thank you for being a breath of fresh air, truth we all need. No problem. That's what I do, man. It's what I do for a living. So yeah, let me get back to ethanol, just our confession of where we screwed up. And that I believe that government can overreach. It can. But damn it, the stuff it does is good. I hear you, caretaker. I do. But here's the problem with it. E85, the amount of energy, when you measure the amount of energy that E85 produces versus straight gasoline, you're actually not helping the environment because you have to burn a percentage more of E85 to generate the same amount of energy in your vehicle. So yeah, ethanol was a mistake. It was. It was a well-intended, good-hearted mistake. But that does not negate everything else the government does that's good. We just need to fix the shit when it messes up. We do. You know, here in Texas, one of the things you hear about, they all like to talk about California. Never been, don't live there, but they all seem to be California experts. And one of the things that drives them up the wall is how California has mandates on recycling your trash, dividing your trash. Drives Texans here up the wall. And yeah, if you do go into some California communities, those rules are a little bit off, over the top. They are. But you can fix that. People will get pissed off and fix that. You know, we can fix the things that we do wrong. But if you get rid of government like they do, folks, read a history book. Read a history book at what corporations do. And you don't need to go back to ancient history. Go back to last year when they were trying to process postulated chicken. You know what? I'll give you another one. Working down here in Texas, we don't get a lot of OSHA. I used to work construction as a young man. You know what they teach you when you're working in a trench? Not kidding. They teach you that if the trench collapses, throw your hands up. Can anybody guess why they teach you when a trench collapses, throw your hands up? Anybody know? Because you're a dead man. And they're not going to dig you out with a shovel. They're going to dig you out with a backhoe. And you don't want the backhoe hitting your head when they find you so that your family can bury you. Not kidding. That's worker safety where the government's not involved. Now, OSHA says firm up the walls, send an inspector. You leave companies to their own. Their idea of safety is when the trench collapsed, throw your hands up so we only take your hands off and that won't show when you're in the box and your family can bury you. Folks, that's not hyperbole. That's real. That's real. So yeah, people, when I tell you Iran is desperate, they glued themselves to Russia. They used their relationship with Russia to agitate other nations in the region like Saudi Arabia. And they see Russia collapsing. They are terrified and they're willing to do anything. They are going to try to drive this into another world war. Mediterranean shipping is next. I assure you, they're going to try to use Algeria and they're going to try to attack Mediterranean shipping next. And folks, if you will read a history book, you will see that when we get these multi-theater hot wars, that's when world wars happen. Something stupid happens. So yeah, 2024. I'm going to land this plane now, folks. I'm going to land this plane now. This all goes one place. Yes, absolutely, Peter and Brett. Thank you, my man. Thank you. Watch the Suez Canal. They have avoided pissing Egypt off by not attacking the Suez Canal, but rather attacking in the straits in the southern part of the Red Sea by using the Houthis, who are starving their own people to death, by the way. Where are the damn protests about the Houthis starving their people to death? I don't remember seeing anybody. I don't remember anybody like marching in London, for the poor children in Yemen who are starving to death, literally. Right now, go do a Google search for it. Yemeni children starving to death. The Houthis don't feed their people. Say what? Thank you for the support, my man. Thank you, Texas Paul and Mrs. Texas Paul, for all the history and political info. Keep going on what you're doing. In 24, happy holidays, everyone. Happy holidays. I promise I will end this on a good note. I promise I will. But yeah, folks, human nature and people, they're pretty constant. They're pretty constant. If you just inform yourself as to what people did, know the history of a region before you make up your mind. When you hear something that's happening, like Ukraine, everybody says, why didn't we support Ukraine? Immediately give them all the weapons. Well, you don't know the history of the region, and you don't know that just a couple years ago, Ukraine and Russia were the closest allies on earth. They just were. I mean, they just were. So yeah, a little bit of caution in the beginning of this conflict was warranted. Ukraine has proven themselves. They have proven themselves to want independence. They have proven to want to be a legitimate part of Europe. They have rooted out corruption in their own ranks. But in the beginning, I mean, the history wasn't there, folks. So yeah, learn the history of a region, and then you can see what people are doing, and you can know what's next. Because I will bet you an appendage, the next ships attacked are going to be north of Algeria, coming through the Gibraltar Straits. So, it is Christmas. Enough of this. It is Christmas. This has been an amazing year, folks. Me and Mrs. Texas Paul went out shopping yesterday. I know you got to think, why would you go shopping? It was great. People were great. Everybody was fantastic, man. It was, I've never, normally it's everybody's so, it's like, and we all make the jokes about, oh, nice Christmas spirit. Wasn't that way. It really wasn't. I don't know what's different about this year. I've just noticed it the whole time. This has been an amazing year. It really has. I put a message out on all my social media. I've got I've got a lot of social media followers. I really do. Wishing the soldiers in Ukraine a Merry Christmas. Just reminding folks that right now the soldiers in Ukraine are, they're fighting to drive an invader out of their country. They're sitting in trenches. It's freezing freaking cold. It is miserable. It is wet. And that's where they're spending their Christmas. And the hateful comments I got on that were few and far between, but they were all Republicans. All of them were Republicans, down to the last man. So yeah, recognize your people, recognize what they're doing. It's time to focus. No more single issues, ever. No more single issues. We're doing good, folks. We're doing good. We're getting the Democratic Party to be very responsive to what we want them to do. I'm not saying there isn't more work to do. Of course, there's more work to do. But we're a big tent party that's listening to its people. And I want to leave you with this. The way things are trending, people have turned their back on the hatefulness, the awfulness. Look at every vote that's come up with abortion on the ballot. The people are saying, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to be hateful. We're not. We're not going to treat women like second-class citizens. That's what the people are saying. And look at what the government's doing. They're doing incredible things. A 5% GDP. I mean, wow. I mean, you're seeing that kind of growth and inflation's coming down. I mean, every economist in the world is going, what? America's got a smoking hot economy and inflation just came down in the last quarter. What? I mean, we got it good, folks. All we got to do is keep showing up. But the agitators are going to be there. They're going to be all over our social media. Night before last night, I was on Reels. I was watching Reels, and I was watching just all the right wing trollery. I mean, they were going back to, like I said, just the old school stupid shit that they would say. I was talking about the video with the guy on the crane and the, oh, we're a democracy, not a republic, and all. I mean, all the old school shit that they were running. Before that, the night before, it was 24/7. Threads had turned into, I mean, every fifth post was how horrible Israel was. I was like, Jesus God, is this what this site has turned into? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. The proxy servers, Meta just gave access to the proxy servers in Eastern Europe. So of course. The point is, don't let them do it to us. I'm not saying don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you got to love Israel. I'm not. I'm not. This has nothing to do with Israel. There's nothing to do with Israel or the Palestinians, or it's don't let them create any wedge issue with us. Because we're doing a really great job responding to what the people want. We're moving towards free education for people that earn it. You earn the grades, we'll educate you because you benefit our society. Forgiving college debt. Joe Biden just issued a blanket pardon I could do an entire show on this one thing. Just issued a blanket pardon for everyone that was ever arrested for simple marijuana possession or intent to buy or intent to distribute just simple marijuana. Folks, if you know the history and you know what those drug laws were used for, how they were used to push people into the system, that's a big, quote Joe Biden, that's a big fucking deal. I mean, we're doing it, man. We're making it a better place. All we have to do is ignore the shiny objects, be ride or die. Let me see my ride or die Democrats. I know I do this every show. Forgive me for doing it. Let me see my ride or die Democrats. Hearts and skulls in the comments, man. Light this fucking place up. We vote every election, and we vote Democrat. Until the Republican Party is gone. I would like to say that I am. It would make me much cooler, bud. Coxnut, I would, but I don't even smoke, man. I don't. I rarely drink. I just know how the issues used to abuse people. I do. So yeah, let's keep moving in the right direction. You know, the Russians and the Iranians, they all want to pull us back. They want to pull us back to the days where women were second-class citizens. They hate our liberal society. They do. And these same morons that are talking about, well, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. They don't even like republics, folks. They're going to vote for a fascist. But we're doing it, man. And look how it feels, man. Look how it feels this year. Look how it feels this year. This holiday season. Wasn't it great? I mean, among us, hitting that block button, getting rid of that toxic shit. Among us, man, it's great. And I'm not kissing your ass when I say this. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Having watched this shit forever, it's you. It's you. You folks right here. And this is not me kissing your ass. This isn't. I want you to hear this politically. What is important about you? The fact that when we hold these conversations, the comments that you put out, how well informed already on these issues you are, makes you impervious to manipulation. Or at least when they do manipulate you, you're able to do self-analysis and correct. You know, we're all human. We all have emotions. Hell, look at the TikToks. They're not all bad people. They're not. They just know not what the big picture, what they're advocating for. But man, 2024 is going to be an amazing year. All we have to do is keep it together. Mark my words. Critical, that's right, Old Silver, critical thinking. You folks are capable of it. Mark my words. Russia does not have another year. You remember when it collapsed last time financially? It is collapsing again this time financially. They are already openly talking. That's why Navalny disappeared, folks. That's why Putin knows. He took that option off the table. Because he knows the sentiment in Russia is Putin's a freaking idiot. And it's growing. And that state sponsor of terror, that agitator, because, you know, our foreign policy as Americans, and we've got a huge international audience here. We do. And for you folks that are not Americans here, Canadians, Norwegians, all the Europeans, we had a gentleman from Africa here in one of our previous shows. Let me tell you this. We are keenly aware here in the United States that our foreign policy is not perfect by any means. Cosmic Rose says, everyone pretty please smash that like button. Thanks. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Get this video pushed up because people need to hear this. But yeah, we're keenly aware here in the United States, our foreign policy is far from perfect. It is. But you know, when we went into Iraq, we didn't turn it into a vassal state of the United States. We didn't. The Chinese got those oil contracts. The Chinese got those oil contracts. The people of Iraq made their choice and they gave the contracts to the Chinese. We didn't do a damn thing about it because we're not Putin. Had Russia been in control like they are in Syria, you'd have seen several Iraqi individuals have window cleaning accidents. We don't do that. So yeah, I know we're asking, stick with us, but we are really the good guys. We really are. And this is going to be a great century. Folks, I apologize for going so long today and taking up so much of your Sunday on a Christmas Eve. I thank you for being here. But I want you to leave content and happy and knowing we're doing good. We are. We're doing good. We're changing the world for the better. All we have to do, keep blocking the trolls on your social media. Don't engage with them, block them. I pull them up and mock them occasionally. I'll hold them up so that you folks can just, hoist them up on a petard so you people can throw rocks at them. But I don't engage them because I immediately block them after that. Kill their echo chambers. The right wing is already getting bored. They are. All these people that used to do this for entertainment, these MAGA tards, they're getting bored. The pro-Palestinian thing that was pushing so much misinformation on TikTok, it's going away. They're getting bored with it. So it's up to us to be the responsible people, to make sure that, 6 months from now, when the TikToks don't even mention Palestine anymore, that we take care of the people in Palestine. It's going to be up to us, the ones that are informed, because the TikToks will be gone. They'll be on to the next subject. But we're doing it, man. We're making it a better place. We're making it a better world. Over the objections of people like Ron DeSantis, which is banning books and trying to drive everybody back to church-run governments. I can think of nothing more bass-ackwards than a church-run government. Show me one in the world. Show me, please, somebody in the comments correct me. Show me a theocracy anywhere in the world that's just great. Love you, folks. You keep being you. And you have a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I'm going to stick to the schedule because none of the major holidays fall on my show days. So I will be here Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm trying to get permission from the family to go to a daily, to be here Monday through Friday. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, hit the subscribe button for me, please. Hit the thumbs up button for me, please. Let's get this pushed up on the algorithm. Let's get good information out there. Keep hitting that block button. Shut down those troll circles. And enjoy what we've created. You have a Merry Christmas, folks. You have a beautiful Christmas. This is Old Texas Paul out. Enjoy.